Well, everyone, it's time for us to go ahead and take a look at the Samsung Galaxy S23 and compare it against the OnePlus 11 and see which specific phone you should go ahead and pick up. Now, both these phones are very different. They are both bringing two different things to the table, which we'll go and talk about throughout this video. But if you want to pick up either one of these phones, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these devices, the OnePlus 11 and the Galaxy S23 kind of just came out, which is very funny. Now, the OnePlus 11 on the front has a pretty big 6.7-inch LTPO3 Fluid AMOLED display, and it is a pretty good panel. It's a good high-resolution panel at 1440p. It's a 120 Hz panel too, which looks pretty good. And overall, I like the design. It kind of reminds me a lot of like the OnePlus 8, the OnePlus 9s, OnePlus 10T Pro, and all those ones. You can see the hole punch display is on the top left here, so it looks a little bit different than the hole punches that are centered out nowadays. And overall, it's a pretty good looking phone, not a lot of bezel, a little bit of a curved display a little bit too, which is pretty nice. On the Samsung Galaxy S23, on the other hand, it does have a little bit of a smaller 6.1-inch dynamic AMOLED display. So it is a noticeably smaller phone. You are getting the hole punch display in the center. It's also a low resolution display, so it's 1080p, but because it's not as big as something like the OnePlus 11, it doesn't really seem like that big of a difference. It's a flat display, which I actually prefer a curved display a little bit like on the OnePlus 11. However, I will still say the OnePlus 11's display is good, but Samsung does a great job with their displays, and with these panels, I think they've overall done a pretty good job with the way these, the displays are basically set up. So, at least on the front, that kind of covers it up there. Now on the sides and the rest of the body of the phones, you can definitely tell how much bigger a phone is on the OnePlus 11 over the Samsung Galaxy S23. You can kind of get the idea here, like, the OnePlus 11 has the buttons here and everything, but I think the OnePlus 11 with its curved design on the back reminds me more of the Galaxy S21. I think the S23 is doing more to kind of make it stand out, at least on the sides. The top right there, not much going on. The bottom, USB-C ports on both. But the back is where things are very, very different. Now, I will tell you, I really like the design of the OnePlus 11 on the back. I think the camera module looks really cool, looks so different than a lot of other phones nowadays, and OnePlus does always very interesting things with their cameras. I will say though, I am not really a fan of the back of the OnePlus 11, meaning I'm not a fan of the way basically the body is kind of situated, like the sandstone, whatever this is. I liked it on the OnePlus 1. Nowadays, I'm not really a fan of the way OnePlus kind of approached this. Like, I don't think it feels that great. It feels very weird, and it just slips out of my hands all the time. It's very top heavy. So the phone, because of the camera module, like I dropped it like 3 times when I was making my last video. So that was very, very annoying. So now I have to hold it a little bit better. With the Galaxy S23, it is a triple camera setup as well, but it's a flat back, which, like I said, I like the camera module more, the way it looks on the OnePlus 11, but I think that this is more practical, having the cameras kind of flushed out, or at least not having a big camera module like this. But this frosted glass back feels much better, and it feels more premium, I think, but this one looks way more unique. Like, when you look at this phone, like, every phone kind of looks like what the Galaxy S23 looks like, but not many phones look like what the OnePlus 11 looks like. So, at least on the back, that kind of covers it up there in my opinion. Now, I would say that if you're trying to choose one over the other because of the outside, that's kind of one of the bigger differences here, believe it or not. So from that kind of covers it up there. Now, in terms of software and the longevity, one thing that's always been interesting, at least between these two phones, is basically the differences or what used to be differences. The OnePlus devices used to be more stock Android. Now they kind of have this like skinned version of Android, which I never really liked. I will tell you though, with this type of phone, it's still great. You still have a lot of features built in within OnePlus's software, which is great. So it looks a little bit kind of like One UI and stock Android and iOS combined, which is very funny. But there's still lots of features. You can really do anything you want to here. I would probably say, I don't know which phone would last longer between these two. I'd probably think that both these phones will last around the same time. So in terms of software and longevity, both these phones are going to be lasting roughly around the same time there. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there as well. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both these devices. The OnePlus 11 has that Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset inside of it with 8 gigs of RAM on the base model, but it does go up to 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is pretty crazy. The Galaxy S23, on the other hand, has the same Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset, but this one goes only up to 8 gigabytes of RAM. But if you get the S22 Ultra, that one does go up to 12 gigs of RAM. But also one other thing to keep in mind, this is the base model with 8 gigs. So let's go and see how much faster one of them is over the other one. Okay, there we go. All the apps are not cleared out in the background, so I'm going to close them all out here. I'm going to close them all out here. So let us get into it. Let's go and do phone calls, 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing. Messages, 3, 2, 1. Actually, I think the OnePlus 11 was faster. What am I talking about? Let's go and hop out of here. Let's go into Google Chrome, 3, 2, 1. Okay, not too sure. They kind of were on different panels. Let's open up their cameras, 3, 2, 1. Okay, a few different pop-ups here. Let's go and get out of here. And let's go and take a photo, 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing. Let's go and open up that photo. Definitely was far faster on the Galaxy S23 there. In terms of animations, very much the same thing, not a big difference there either. Let's open up their Play Stores, 3, 2, 1. Okay, kind of the same thing. Now let's go and scroll through here. Let's see if there's any differences, which I don't think there's going to be any massive differences here. You can kind of see that scrolling through. Both are 120 Hz too, like I mentioned, so both are very smooth in that standpoint as well. Now I do have some of these third-party applications I can go and open up. I don't know where all my apps I don't know where my apps went on my Galaxy S23, but we can start opening a few of them up. I wonder if these apps got deleted. I just had like a ton of them and they just ended up being removed, which is very, very awkward. So we can try some of them, I guess. We can try Twitter, 3, 2, 1. Okay, definitely some differences there. Let's go and do Instagram. Let's skip that one. Let's do Quizlet, 3, 2, 1. Okay, some differences there too. Let's go and do Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. I do wonder why a lot of applications got deleted on the Galaxy S23. That is very weird. I have to look into that. That might actually be an issue that we may not even know about. Okay, you can see that we did have a little bit of a pop-up on the S20 or on the OnePlus 11, so that's totally okay. It's funny how this one still has like an Android 2.6 like type of display on it. Let's go and hop out of these ones. Let's go and get into the gameplay. And so many pop-ups here. It's crazy. Play 3, 2, 1. Okay, and I think the gameplay is going to be roughly around the same thing too. I don't think there's going to be that big of a difference between these two devices from that perspective. It's a pretty basic game when it comes down to it. Let's go and hop out of this one. Let's go and hop out of this one here. Let's see if there's any other third-party applications that are similar. But I think we kind of get the idea, Facebook 321, that there's definitely a lot of overlap. These two phones have a lot of similarities. And I don't think you would pick up one over the other just based off the performance, since they both have the same chipset inside. So in terms of that kind of covers up this quick speed comparison for the most part. Now in the camera department, like I mentioned before, I love how the OnePlus 11 kind of looks. I think the OnePlus 11 has a very, very unique design structure on the outside. The Galaxy S23 has the triple camera setup as well as that OnePlus 11. So they all have wide, ultra-wide, and telephoto lenses, which is tremendous. Now on the front, we can do 4K 60 on the front of the Galaxy S23. The OnePlus 11 can only do 1080p. So that is still a very annoying thing that we have on the OnePlus 11. I'm surprised OnePlus hasn't changed that yet. Again, it's kind of just one of those things we're going to have to kind of get used to, but hopefully they can change it at some point. And the camera UI looks pretty good. There's really not too much to complain about here. You have, I don't even know why the camera's upside down like this, but you have 20x zoom. On the outside, you have about 0.7x or 0.6x zoom on the outside, so still pretty good overall, not really too many differences here. You have standard video mode, you have portrait mode, you have this more mode as well, which has a lot more options. So definitely some cool stuff on this camera. I haven't really complained about it too much, besides the 1080p on the front. The S23 though is probably going to be the better camera, and I think everyone kind of knows that. This is a pretty good camera with a pretty good lens. You have a lot of capability here. So if you're zooming in a lot, you have the 30x zoom. If you're zooming out, you have the 0.6x zoom. And this is definitely the best camera. And this is a really good camera. It's probably one of the better cameras you can buy on a phone nowadays. So I always say that about Samsung phones, and this one is pretty much no different. In terms of battery life, I would probably say that the battery life on the OnePlus 11 is going to be substantially better than the battery life you're going to be getting on a majority of different phones out there. So keep that in mind. But beyond that, which phone would I recommend buying? Now, I like the Galaxy S23 because I like the features inside of it. I like the better camera you're getting on this phone. I like some of the features you're getting inside of One UI as well. And I do feel like more phones are more optimized for something like a Samsung Galaxy than like a OnePlus device. And I'm not really too sure where OnePlus is going to be like 3 or 4 years from now. So I would hate to buy a phone like the OnePlus 11, I love it, and then they never make like the OnePlus 11 ever again, like a phone like this. The OnePlus 11, I like it a lot because you're getting, still a good build phone. It's cheap. It's not cheap, but it's, not as expensive as you may think. You can spec it out to be more powerful than probably even like a Galaxy S23 Ultra. You have great power. You have a really big display as well, which is really nice. But I just don't really like the way the back feels. I don't like how top heavy this phone is, but I love the back of this phone too. But I love the way the camera looks on the back. So that kind of covers it up. you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.